How are you, folks? I am Miss Arjam, your today's presenter. Welcome to our discussion. Are you ready? Do you want to understand the literacy in middle and secondary schools? Well, you have clicked on the right video. Let's start. This is the scope of our discussion as anchored to the zone of proximal development theory by Lev Vygotsky. We will see the difference between the definition of literacy then and now. We will also define multiliteracy. We will see the theoretical model that I have come up with. We will point out the different issues on adolescent literacy, then compare Dr. Ruddle's analysis with the middle and secondary schools literacy in the Philippines. Finally, we will enumerate the roles of teachers in adolescent literacy. Just a disclaimer, I am using adolescent literacy as was adopted from the primary source of information. Also, because middle schoolers and secondary schoolers are generally in their adolescent stage. First, let us see the difference and/or similarities of the literacy then and the literacy now. The University of Pittsburgh defined traditional literacy as the mere knowledge of letters. As long as an individual knows how to read and write, then that person is literate. In a survey done by the CIA World Factbook in 2012, it was found out that 83.7% of the world's population are literate in terms of reading and writing. How about the literacy now? Elster, as cited in Ruddle 2008, pragmatically defined literacy as being able to practically apply the written language. Because one is able to read, that person can understand the news about COVID-19. Because someone is able to write, that person can send a message of inspiration to the frontliners combating the virus. Bianca Rosa and Snow, as cited in Ruddle 2008, found out in their study that although learners can read and write, 8 million grades 4 to 12 learners are struggling in those areas. Basing from the definitions, there is a big difference between the literacy then and now. Today, literacy is not only about being able to read and write, but applying the language to everyday tasks at home, at school, at work, etc. If there is literacy, what is multiliteracy? Multiliteracy is the ability to identify, interpret, create, and communicate meaning across a variety of visual, oral, corporal, musical, and alphabetical forms of communication. It views literacy as continual, supplemental, and enhancing or modifying established literacy teaching and learning rather than replacing traditional practices. And it recognizes both the increasing cultural and linguistic diversity in the new globalized society and the new variety of text forms from multiple communicative technologies. Let us take this word for an instance. What word is this? Yes, note. Note is taught to elementary learners as a four-letter word spelled N-O-T-E and pronounced as note, silent E. As the learners progress, they are expected to understand that a note can be a short piece of writing or an explanation at the bottom of a page. A note can also be a symbol in music to produce good music. Note can be a piece of paper money to buy something. Note can also be a written expression of someone's feelings. Later on, they have to realize that note is actually being used by different people in different contexts on different situations for different purposes. That is multiliteracy. This model is anchored to Lev Vygotsky's zone of proximal development or ZPD theory. I call this the literacy to multiliteracy model. As you can see in the diagram, the core of all literacies is the CPD theory. Literacy leads to multiliteracies and vice versa, but they always have to pass through the basics, which is reading and writing. For example, a learner is struggling to learn how to read. By working with the learner and teaching him how to sound out words and use other word recognition strategies, the learner is able to learn to read. We then can say that the learner has basic literacy. If the learner can use the words with multiple meanings in different situations, or if the learner can associate the learnings in other disciplines, then that learner develops multiliteracies. The level of learners' reading and writing must undergo all the stages of ZPD for them to attain literacy or multiliteracies, and the process repeats. Let us go to the issues on adolescent literacy. Dr. Ruddle says, number 1, unbalanced learner to teacher ratio. Does this happen in the Philippines? Yes. One class in the Philippines can go up to 70 learners according to Liego 2016. However, the Department of Education tries to lower the ratio, and Montemayor 2018 mentioned that the ratio achieved the 1 teacher is to 45 students in the school year 2017-2018. Number 2, unprepared or underprepared learners. These are learners who started school too early that the children's cognitive, psychomotor, and affective aspects are not yet ready. These can also be the learners who were not able to maximize their learning during the previous level but passed the level anyway and are to go to the next level. For example, a grade 6 learner who always comes to class but struggles in reading, writing, and arithmetic but still passed the grade 6 curriculum may not technically cope with the requirements of grade 7 curriculum. There is a huge gap between what that learner was able to grasp during primary school and what the middle school is expecting him to comprehend. Number 3, insufficient or inappropriate instructional materials. Do teachers and learners experience this in the Philippines? Yes. In 2019, Mateo of Philstar Global reported that the DepEd was not able to provide enough modules for the different subjects from kindergarten to grade 12. Because of lack of resources, teachers may intentionally or unintentionally use inappropriate materials. As an example, because of lack of grade 5 English books, teachers will use grade 7 books for grade 5 and will just modify topics and activities to fit to the student's grade level. Number 4, absenteeism. In a study done by Genteroy 2016, among 162 fourth-year learners in the Philippines, it was found out that absenteeism or regular truancy can lead to poor classroom performance. In another study conducted by Balkis et al. 2016, they found out that learners who have negative academic self-perception, negative attitudes towards teacher and school, lack of goal, and lack of motivation are more likely to have school absenteeism. Number 5, constant schedule interruption. There are unexpected events that can also influence adolescent literacy. In the Philippines, where typhoon is prevalent, learners may experience 1 day to 1 week class suspension, which may affect their behavior towards studying. Learners have not only missed school days but also missed lessons, skipped topics, lost focus, developed a lazy attitude towards school, making it difficult for them to get back on track, according to the Guzman 2018. This means that the pandemic that has been laying the world recently has a long-term effect on the literacy of our future professionals. Number 6. Complexities of different talents. Learners have different multiple intelligences, and making a one-fits-all design will not work in the classroom. According to Dr. Ruddle, it has always been a great challenge for teachers to ignite the hidden or underdeveloped intelligence of each learner. Number 7. Diversified cultural backgrounds. Immigrant learners are often immersed quite suddenly in a cultural and language environment different from theirs, and that may or may not honor their home culture and language. The result? Culture shock and difficulty to adapt. For these learners, we need programs and classes that will support the development of English language fluency and literacy in content areas while still maintaining their primary language and culture. Number 8. Technological advancement. Although many Filipino learners are tech-savvy nowadays, De La Rosa 2016 argued that in a developing nation like the Philippines, the role of ICT in language teaching is deemed vital. However, the scarcity of ICT resources, such as the limited number of computers and the unavailability of internet services, hinder the effective integration of ICT in language pedagogy. These factors affect both language teaching and language learning. There may be other issues that were not mentioned here. Can you share any? Thank you. Because Dr. Ruddle introduced adolescent literacy in the American context, let us see the status of literacy in the Philippines. This data comes from the UNESCO, or the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. The data shows that in 2015, 99.08% of Filipinos ages 15 to 24 are literate. Among the 15 to 24-year-old males, 98.9% are literate and 99.27% among females. The question now is, what kind of literacy did they survey? The literacy then or the literacy now? Well, the article did not mention. In the news reported by Philstar in 2019, the United Nations ranked Filipinos as most literate in Southeast Asia with a 97.95% rate. However, the news article mentioned only reading and writing literacy. In the National Statistics Office census in 2010, the data revealed that 97.5% of the 71.5 million individuals who are 10 years old and older were literate or could read and write. Again, the focus is on reading and writing. The DepEd Undersecretary San Antonio reiterated in an interview last year that in the so-called Industry 4.0, we have to go beyond the traditional notion of basic literacy. This means that the educational system must be abreast with the literacies brought about by the Fourth Industrial Revolution era. Hence, the Department of Education continues to push for initiatives that would help improve the present condition of literacy in the country. Again, the question is, How equipped are the Filipino teachers to educate middle and secondary school learners beyond the basic literacy? What do you think? Now that we have been introduced to the different issues of adolescent literacy and the status of Filipino middle schoolers and secondary schoolers in terms of literacy, let us see the roles of teachers in the literacy of students. First, attention to adolescent literacy acknowledges that literacy growth is continuous. Literacy starts from what the learners can do unaided, what they can do with guidance, and what they cannot do. As the required performance becomes difficult, the learner's progress is expected to also become more complex to cope up with the, should I say, leveled up versions of literacy per grade level. Next, attention to adolescent literacy provides for diversity of learner literacy abilities and needs. Since learners have multiple intelligences, teachers should provide them literacies that would fit to their needs while still opening doors for other abilities that they unknowingly have. Next, attention to adolescent literacy allows learners to learn new, more difficult reading, writing, study skills to complete a school task. Teachers, we have to remember that learners need everyday growth. If the learners are already becoming complacent, we have to find ways to let them explore the world beyond their comfort zones. Finally, attention to adolescent literacy places remedial reading and writing programs into a perspective that more accurately reflects reality. Dr. Ruddle mentioned that when the only literacy instruction in middle and secondary schools is remedial, all discussions of reading, writing, and literacy was negative, and all attention and concern were focused on the relatively small percentage of the school population with literacy problems. Programs for learners with reading problems and special needs will still be needed. However, for most learners, the primary focus of literacy instruction should be in their subject area. Teachers, we carry great responsibility on our shoulders in shaping the minds, building the characters, and improving the lives of our learners. May we remember time and again the reminder of Mrs. White in her book Education. It says, "The true teacher is not satisfied with the second-rate work. He is not satisfied with directing his students to a standard lower than the highest which it is possible for them to attain. He cannot be content with imparting to them only technical knowledge, with making them merely clever accountants, skillful artisans, successful tradesmen. It is his ambition to inspire them with principles of truth, obedience, honor, integrity, and purity, principles that will make them a positive force for the stability and uplifting of society. He desires them above all else to learn life's great lesson of unselfish service." Before I end, I will leave one question for your personal reflection. How do I shape the minds, build the characters, and improve the lives of my learners? Happy teaching! See